Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Reinvent and Rediscover. Happy Thursday. I'm your host, Ava Laurie, and this week we're going to be talking about anger. I think anger is the most powerful emotion that we can experience as humans, but I want to talk about using your discernment when it comes to anger, as far as deciding whether or not you are going to express your anger and how you can use it for good or how it can actually be very detrimental to your mental health and the regulation of your nervous system. So, this has came up because anger is something I have been unlearning for the past few years living on my own. I feel like growing up, it was very it was very much a common occurrence for my family to get angry over little things. And I don't think that is a unique experience to me. I think a lot of people grew up in environments that were quick to become hostile. And no shade on my family. I adore my family. But I do talk about my family a lot because obviously your upbringing has a lot to do with how you become an adult and the way that you act as an adult. And a lot of things that you learn from a child, you have to figure out how to unlearn into your adulthood if you want to become, a better parent or a better adult figure to precede your upbringing. And there's a lot of different factors, I think, that go into anger, but upon my research and upon just reflecting on situations that have caused anger in my life, a lot of anger comes from the feeling that something happened to you that is unjust or not fair. That feeling of that wasn't fair is likely to cause you to become angry. And this can be on a small scale or a large scale. Large scale, we're talking about, someone did you very wrong or hurt you or hurt a family member or did something that caused you to feel like you deserve justice on a wide scale, and it was detrimental to your day-to-day life and detrimental to you in a way that you have to process and figure out how to move forward. And on a small scale of anger, we're talking like minor inconveniences, day-to-day life things that are inconvenient, agitating, annoying, or cause you discomfort, like road rage, or in a grocery store, someone, cuts in front of you with their cart or grabs something before you, reaches over you, something, a small scale inconvenience. And I kind of want to break that up and distinguish the two because those two instances expel the same emotion or emit the same emotion. However, they require different reactions or none at all. You can use your anger for good. And a lot of my life, I am so motivated by using bad things for good. Using your circumstances, what you have, and making something beautiful out of it, making something worth the struggle, worth the, unfairness of something. And a lot of my life, you know, I mean, we've all dealt with stuff in our life. We've all had circumstances that we have had to heal from or that we did not deserve happen to us in the first place. And I think a lot of that is why I write or why I use my life experiences to talk about things that can help other people on this podcast. And a lot of the circumstances that I have gone through, I have used for motivation in the gym or my fitness journey regarding marathon training. And it kind of backs a lot of my why, and a lot of my reasoning for things is motivated by growth, and growth from situations that have kind of knocked me down or set me back in life. And I have actively, especially over the past few months, I've been evaluating my emotions and how I choose to react to situations, because I am on a huge journey of protecting my peace and finding my peace within life's chaos. And I've mentioned a few times at this point that I have quit my job. And in the beginning of this podcast, my job, I absolutely adored and loved and talked about it in a positive light. And not to kind of, you know, get rid of all the positivity that that job had, but it started causing a lot of chaos in my life in not a good way. And when I am someone who is very short tempered, when I go through times of being short tempered, I know that something in my life is wrong, because it is not normal to be someone who is short tempered. I think we've normalized it a lot, but something is dysregulated or something is off about your life if you walk around and you are quick to anger. Either you are dissatisfied with your life or an aspect of it, but it is not normal to be quick tempered. And growing up and learning that anger is an okay outlet to express has made it difficult for me to figure out how to manage, because I think angry people are ugly. And I don't mean like literally, I just mean it's an ugly emotion, and it makes you hard to be around. It makes people want to walk on eggshells around you. It makes people uncomfortable around you, scared to say the wrong things, scared to make you upset or mad. And I never want to be the person who is hard to be around because I cannot manage my emotions. I have dealt with other people in my life, especially growing up, who could not manage their emotions, and it made it extremely difficult to want to be around them, because you could say the smallest thing, or you could do the smallest, or an outside circumstance could happen to them while you're with them, and they explode with anger. And now all of a sudden, you look like, since you're associated with them, that you condone that behavior, or just the association with an angry person in public is embarrassing. And I dealt with that a lot growing up. My older sister, and I don't think she listens to this podcast, God forbid, and I do love her so much, and if she is listening to this, I love you. But I'm using this as an example because I know you have grown a lot since childhood. And but I do want to say that when we were younger, it was really hard to go out in public with her because she was so quick to anger, and not in a normal, like, reactive way, but explosive and embarrassing. And especially, like, think about going to Starbucks and they make your drink wrong. For most people who are thinking clearly, it's just a minor inconvenience, and they can remake your drink, you move on, you're still satisfied, everything's fine. But she had an issue with, one, regulating her emotions, but two, expressing them in a healthy way. You can be irritated by minor inconveniences without causing a scene. But growing up, my sister was always causing a scene. And I felt like, being associated with that made me feel embarrassed and awkward and bad. So now that I have kind of grown up and I'm 25 now, I have to think about that. Like, I don't want to be the person who is angry in people are like don't really want to go out in public with me. And there's a lot of times I have clocked recently where I'm like, why am I reacting with so much anger? And I think anger is hard because it's an emotion that you immediately like feel guilty for expressing. And two, it's almost embarrassing to talk about anger because it's not attractive. And it's hard to let go of as well because I think anger has such a hold on people, unlike happiness, which I feel like is a fleeting emotion. There's a lot of fleeting emotions that don't have their hold on you. But I think anger and guilt, shame, those sort of emotions that are really ugly and really difficult have a hold on people, and it takes years to kind of unlearn and decompose. Um, there's a lot of things recently that I feel like I have to talk myself through because, like I said, I don't want to identify as an angry girl. Like, I just don't want to be that person because I think a lot of people view me as calm and mellow and collective, calm and collective, calm and collected. Because I do present myself that way and I am calm 90% of the time. I'm just a chill person. Not a lot phases me. But there's some things that really get under my skin, and all of a sudden, I feel like a kid again in the way that I like express my anger. And I hate that. So I'm actively trying to work on that and change that. But if you are someone who reacts with anger and that's what you have always known or grew up learning, it's okay and you're not alone. And give yourself grace to grow and be self aware enough to realize that it's unnecessary. Okay? Um, but I want to talk about that. So, a lot of times that we feel anger, it's like we had a pre existing state of discomfort or uncertainty, and then one more inconvenience is what catapults you into anger. So I was thinking about this recently because while I was working my job as a flight attendant, day in and day out, I was in a constant state of anxiety, uncertainty, and overstimulation. Day to day life was already at a little bit of a level of irritation because there was so much stress that my job was causing in every facet of my life that I walked around life already tense. I was already tense, and that's not normal. It's not normal to feel a constant level of tenseness because what that caused was me being quick to anger, and it caused me to constantly feel like I was standing on the edge, and it took one push. And it came that way with a lot of different emotions. Like it took one push to make me feel really sad and spiral. Um, so ultimately, I decided that I had to remove that part of my life. I had to quit my job because I was living in a sustained period of tenseness and tightness, and you feel that all the way down to your bones. It's not healthy. It's not good for your body to be under prolonged periods of stress, anxiety, whatever. It is normal for your body wants to be in a state of homeostasis and peace, calmness, serenity, contentment, fill in the blank. Your body naturally wants to be at just a normal level. It doesn't, your parasympathetic system naturally brings you to just like a normal, calm state. That's why you never feel an intense emotion for a long period of time, because it's not healthy to feel any emotion at a high level of intensity for a prolonged state of time. So if your body is having a hard time regulating its emotions and not bringing your, nervous system back down to just an equilibrium state, a normal balanced state, then there is probably an external factor that needs to change. And I knew that if I continued dragging myself down into the dirt, I would probably end up really sick, because that's how, autoimmune diseases happen within people, is intense trauma, intense heartbreak, prolonged periods of stress. Stress is very, very, very hard on the body. It literally tenses your body up, and for prolonged periods of time, you will end up sick. That's why people who are overly stressed out all the time, like the finance pros in New York City, across the pond there, who are working 12 hours on end every day and stressed over the stock market and this and that, their immune system is lower than the average person, because their body is so focused on the stress that it's hard to regulate and fight off illness, because your body is so focused on all of its energy going into the stress. So anywho, if you are already in a state of overstimulation and feeling on edge, then you're going to be quick to anger. So if you are someone currently who feels like you're struggling with that emotion and you're struggling with being so reactive, first think about, your external factors. Is there something in your life right now that you are so at ends with or discontent with? Is it, your partner, your living situation, your job? Is there a big part of your life that you are feeling like you're playing tug of war with? Because that will make you a highly reactive person. And if not, then time to focus inward and evaluate the way that you are, for a lack of a better way to say it. But if you are someone who is quick to anger, you need to evaluate your life, because I'm able to regulate my emotions a lot more now that I'm not in this constant period of stress and discontent with my job. And I'm still unlearning unnecessary anger. But I feel better. I feel calmer. I feel nicer. I feel more myself. So that's kind of what I would classify as negative anger, is just being quick-tempered and minor inconveniences. And what I will say about, that negative anger is that a lot of times those anger outbursts are unnecessary. So learning how to kind of talk yourself out of that. I think about that a lot, when I'm driving. I drive in New Jersey, which is known to have aggressive drivers and people who don't know how to drive or drive dangerously and assertive. And I have to constantly tell myself, like, okay, I need to be calm so that I can make rational decisions while I'm driving. People who are driving and constantly just angry and yelling and beeping the horn and flashing their lights and cutting and weaving off, that aggression is dangerous, okay? They're not really using their brain to drive safely and carefully. I prefer to drive safely and carefully, so I don't want to be reacting to every time somebody irritates me on the road, because I would be in just a constant state of irritation. So when I drive and somebody cuts me off or whatever, I literally just acknowledge the fact it's annoying, take a breath, and move on. Because day to day, it's going to cost me so much of my energy if I've reacted to every single time that somebody really ticked me off on the road, specifically. Um, and I think it's so normalized to experience road rage at a high level, but it shouldn't be. Okay, we should not be driving around blowing up at every single person that cuts you off or whatever. Like, it is rational to be mad or irritated if somebody like almost rocked your on the road. You know what I mean? Like, that's rational if they almost caused you a great deal of harm. But a lot of times, just move on, just keep it driving, whatever. Don't even pay the mind, because now you're expelling this anger, and it takes longer for your body to kind of go back to a normal balanced state than it would be to just observe the emotion and let it go and move on. So I think about that a lot while I'm driving. It's just, okay, I observe the fact that was irritating, but let me just move forward. Okay, let me just keep driving. Let me keep my car a safe space. I want my car to be a safe space. And something that honestly really pushed me to think about the way that I drive and road rage specifically in my reactions to anger is a year ago, I had a college friend visit me. I also don't think she listens to this podcast, but if so, we are civil. But she visited me and we ended up having a falling out. But when we were in the car together, I literally had the worst outburst of anger because I had missed my turn. So now I added like 20 minutes more on the drive, and it was already an hour drive or so. And then I went through like two tolls. Then I had to go down some side street, which they were filming some movie or something on. So then I couldn't go that way. I had to keep detouring. And I was so frustrated. And looking back at that, and she told me like it scared her that I was reacting that way and I was angry. And I was like, wow, nobody has ever told me that before, that my anger was scary. And I was so defensive about it. I was like, it's just road rage. It's normal to get that angry. It's normal. And I was defending it. And I mean, of course I apologized to her because I don't want to be like that. Even though we had known each other for a while, it just shocked me that, you know, but it was one of those moments where I was like, wow, I need to do some reflection here about how I'm reacting to things, because it made me realize that I was so discontent with my life and my emotions were not regulated, period, because it was not normal to react in the way that I did to that situation. And of course, like, it's normal to be irritated about that because it was irritating in general to miss your turn on the highways here in New Jersey, especially where I live, and then go through toll booths and then detours and add an extra 30 minutes on your driving. It is irritating, but the way that I reacted was not normal, and she clocked that, but I was defensive over it. But looking back, there were so many things about my life that was causing me to be in a constant state of stress. One of them was the fact that I was not eating enough, so I was constantly kind of hangry. Teehee. Yeah, I was constantly kind of hangry all the time, so I was pretty irritable. You know that if you undereat and you're not fueling yourself properly, you're probably very irritable in general. That's why people get hangry. So yeah, that was one. And two, just the stress of my job was sending me over the edge all the time. She told me that. She's like, whenever you quit your job and like maybe don't live here or whatever, hit me up. Maybe we'll be friends again. I was like, okay, slay. She clocked that. So good on her. And if you're listening to this, thanks for clocking me, because I probably needed that. Actually, I definitely needed that. Definitely needed that. So I feel like I've done a lot of growth since then and have kind of just realized the importance of my peace and genuine peace, because I've always talked about protecting my peace, but kind of in a performative way for, I guess, a while, because I wasn't actually willing to do what it took to protect my peace, you know? Um, so moving forward, I want to talk about kind of the second aspect of this, which is positive anger. I do believe that anger has a positive side because anger is such a action forward and motivating emotion, and I feel like if you direct that in the right way, it can be really good for you. Okay? For example, I'm trying to think about how I can talk about this without giving too many details about my life. Um, I'm all about vulnerability, but also there's some details that I need to keep private and secret. A couple years ago, I had dealt with a really tough breakup, and it caused me a lot of anger because so I felt like the situation was so not fair. And it wasn't. Objectively speaking, it was totally not fair. And what happened to me should never happen to me or anyone. So obviously, that situation emitted a lot of anger from me. Now, you have to be careful when a huge life event hits you in the face and causes you to be angry. You have to be careful about how you choose to use your anger, because I could have went off the deep end with my anger and became an angry person and chose to, pay that anger forward in a way to hurt other people or use it as revenge. I do not believe in that. I'm not someone who believes in seeking revenge. I'm not a revengeful person, and I don't like that. It does not feel like my responsibility to get revenge on someone. Like, I truly believe that if someone is a piece of crap person, then the universe will take care of the karma. I don't need to do that. Okay? Like, I do not need to use my anger to throw it back at them. They caused me harm. They did whatever they did to me. And now the universe can take it from there. Okay? Like, I am more focused on me, my healing, and taking care of myself. The world can do whatever they want with them. Not my business anymore. You know what I mean? So how I used that anger was motivation. I used that anger to figure out how I could make my life the best I possibly could. I used that anger to figure out how I could become the best version of myself and use all of that anger to fuel me and be my reason why, and why I have to be better, why I have to do more, try harder, and create an outstanding life for myself. So I started going to the gym. I started looking into more hobbies. I started writing. And you know what? I think I wrote an incredible book after that, because the heartbreak I was going through really catapulted my creativity. I'm looking on my bookshelf right now. If you're watching the video version, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking on my bookshelf because I actually have my book on my bookshelf. It's right here. It's called The Moon My Mind. And the poetry in this is dark in some parts. It talks about the heartbreak I went to and how rough it was on me. But you know what? If I didn't go through that and use my anger for good, this book would not exist. And I think this is an incredible book. No, a publisher has not picked it up. I self-published this. But I created this book. And that is because I chose to use my anger for good and to create something, to make something out of injustices. Sometimes I literally don't know what I'm saying. I chose to use my anger to create something out of the injustice that I endured. Period. Another thing, this podcast, I decided I wanted to talk all about reinventing yourself and becoming the best version of yourself because I was knocked down so low. I did not know who I was anymore after that circumstance. So I had to pick my feet up off the ground and figure out how to move forward. So I wanted to bring that into a podcast, and I did. And I love this outlet. And even though it's not incredibly successful yet, I believe in what I'm saying. And this is a product of my anger and frustration from things that were not fair that happened to me. My marathon, I probably use, I find a reason to talk about my marathon in probably every single episode that I've ever recorded on this podcast. But that anger fueled me for my marathon training because I thought, okay, this person who caused me a lot of damage knew me as someone who weighed 50 pounds more than I do right now, was super unhealthy, unactive, hated my life, and did not much of it. And they loved that. They capitalized off of my discontent with myself and my body. So you know what? I'm going to use that and channel in to my power and becoming the most powerful person that I can be. And that became training for a marathon from 0 to 26 miles in 6 months as someone with asthma and vocal cord dysfunction. I just had to prove my resilience. I used my anger to build resilience and to build a very strong and unmesswithable. I'm trying not to use cuss words because I don't think YouTube likes that, but an unmessable version of myself. Losing weight. I used my anger as motivation in the gym. You know, when I'm clocking up the Stairmaster, doing little Stairmaster sprints or cycling for a few hours or lifting heavy or whatever the case may be, it's because I just have this anger of wanting to be better, and not in a detrimental way, but just how I channeled it into motivation and the desire to be better, grow more, and use crappy life circumstances for good. Because crappy life circumstances can remain crappy and stagnant and stale if you let it, and it can really it can really control your life in a negative way for the rest of your life if you allow it to. It can be like that bug that just won't go away. But if you use situations that were not fair and caused you harm for good, then you will continue to grow from it. And, you know, it's like planting a flower from the seed. Find ways to become out on the other side of injustices, because unfortunately, there is not a single person in life who is going to go through life unscathed. There are going to be people who cause emotional damage on you, whether it's, you know, a partner, romantically, a friend, a family member, whatever the case may be. And our natural, like, body's reaction to those injustices is feeling angry. But don't let your anger consume you. And that's what I had to learn, was that when I was initially going through this, I let my anger consume me. And I used it almost as sabotage, like just treating myself like crap. Because I was so irritated, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I was internalizing it in a way that was making me smaller. But if you use it for good and you redirect it, you can make yourself so much better and you can grow so much from anger. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. But that's just the story of how I used, you know, something that caused me a lot of emotional damage and anger to now feeling like I'm on the other side of that because I expressed it and I allowed that anger to flow through me in a positive light. So now I can like close that chapter. And it's like, wow, I created all these beautiful things off of it and capitalized off of it in a very positive way. And now I can move forward this rebranded version of myself who doesn't know that girl who was treated very poorly. I don't know her anymore because I grew out of it and I forced myself to. And I woke up every day and I had a new purpose. Had to prove myself wrong. Had to prove to myself that I was not that girl. I'm not that girl that you screwed over that bad. I'm not her. I don't know her. You don't know her. I'm new now. And I've moved on from that and I allowed myself to feel all of the emotions, but not consume me in a way that would be detrimental to my health and the person that I want to be. Don't allow your emotions to consume you and become detrimental because anything can be spun in a positive light. And that's something I have definitely learned throughout life is that any life circumstance can be spun in a way where you create something positive out of it. You can create something positive out of anything negative, and sometimes it takes a while to figure out what that thing is, and sometimes it's frustrating, but you can always find something to create out of crap, you know? You just got to figure out how to put the pieces together sometimes, and that's okay. Give yourself grace through that. Give yourself grace to feel anger when it's warranted as well. Like, as long as you're not causing harm, like I said, and keep saying, as long as you're not causing harm on other people through your anger with this situation, then it's okay to feel the anger, but figure out how to express it in a way that will be positive and that can benefit you. So maybe you need, when it comes down to anger, moving forward from, using positive anger, but when it comes down to anger as a whole, you either need more grace with yourself if, someone caused you harm or you feel like you went through an injustice. You need more grace with yourself, or we need more grace with other people when it comes to other people just inconveniencing you throughout the day. Give them a little grace and carry on. And remember that if it doesn't actually affect you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't deserve your irritation. At the end of the day, like someone cutting you off while driving is not going to affect you. It does not deserve your irritation. You know what I mean? Move on, move forward. And if you cannot find a way to use your anger for good and redirect it, then it probably should not expel out of you, period, because it's likely just going to cause some sort of harm in the situation. Does that make sense? I always ask that. I'm like, does that make sense? I need to stop questioning what I'm saying. These are like the notes that I wrote out that I'm kind of reading off right now because I went through a lot of tangents and I want to make sure I get the final points here. And lastly, something I was talking about kind of in the beginning of this episode is that if you cannot manage your anger, you likely struggle to manage a lot of your emotions. And that kind of makes you hard to trust, hard to be around, hard to rely on. And people kind of have to walk around eggshells around you. And you probably do not want that. Because I truly think anger breeds anger. If you're an angry person, the only people who are going to understand you and want to be around you is fellow angry people. And if you don't want that, then you need to change something within you, you know? All right. I'm going to wrap this up here. And I just want to say that if you are going through something that was so not fair and that you do not deserve, and you're having a really hard time processing your emotion, just know that it is okay to be angry, but you can use that emotion in a very powerfully, beautiful, amazing way to create something incredible for yourself and from this circumstance. So don't forget that and give yourself grace to feel that emotion. Because believe me, I know how it feels to go through something that is so not fair and that you are so undeserving of. But you can redefine that and you can rewrite that story You can create a product that is amazing or will help someone else or even just yourself out of that situation. But don't allow your anger to consume you. Promise me that. All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please like, comment, share with somebody who might need to hear this or might need to wake up to their anger or, clock their anger. But until then, I will see you in the next episode and live passionately. Bye.